Hello friends, hello YouTube, how are you guys doing? Rainbow here with another Let's Build tutorial guide video, and today we will be building the Scarlett Mk1 blaster. This is such a phenomenal blaster, I love this so much. Yoshi has been creating this and him and I have been perfecting this over the last year, and you guys have seen it around, so probably doesn't need any further introduction. If you haven't, there will be different videos on my channel, so go check them out. This is a pistol blaster mag-in grip spring powered blaster that was built for LARP, and it's phenomenal. In this video I'm gonna put one together from complete scratch, so everything you need is on the table and you can see how this is built, because you know, either you have a kit or you want to do some taking apart reassembly things, or you've even printed your own and need to know how to assemble this. So this is what this video is for. And of course, there wouldn't be a better blaster to do this with than the limited pre-sale edition, and in this case, the #1 blaster, as you can see here. I hope you can see this, because it's, yes, there you go. The #1 blaster. This is for my friend Alpha from the blaster.de forum. And yes, he's been in another build video as well, because, you know, and these are his colors. So yes, you've probably spotted this. And so I'm going to talk you through how to build this, but a couple of things before we start. You gotta note that the Scarlett is a very, very compact blaster, and it's built probably to the max of like limited space and getting the max performance out of it. So there isn't a lot of space to play with. There aren't many tolerances, and this is really a tight fit. Which is also why the hardware kits I sell in my shop have these parts in them. So this is a Delrin plunger, because we did not get any success with the 3D printed plunger. If you happen to, you know, have the files and want to print your plunger, please feel free and report if you actually find a material and a way to print this that will actually work. We didn't, and that is about a year and a half worth of testing. So we went with the Delrin plunger. That's why this is in there. Also the plunger tube, because aluminum walls are too thick, and because there's limited space in here, we went with a carbon tube which only has 0.5 millimeters wall thickness. So if you have any other materials like polycarbonate, if you're in the States and you have access to this, great. Otherwise, this is why we choose this. So I just wanted to explain why the hardware is a little bit more expensive, because it needs these special parts. These barrels are manufactured especially for this blaster by my friend Fette Wurst. So just to give you an idea of what the hardware kit entails for the price that it has. Now let's go over what we need and then go over it bit by bit. I'm trying to point out all the little problems that you could potentially run into when building this. But if I miss something, or if you run into a different problem or something else, please leave it in a comment and I'll try to get back to you and help you with solving your problem as soon as I can. Now, the 3D printed parts you obviously need. You need the hardware. Consisting of a magazine spring. Yes, the Scarlett has 3D printed magazines that are, this is not using any sort of worker mags yet. We are thinking about the new the Nightingale magazines, because they have roughly the same size. But for now, this is what you have. RMP magazine spring. This is the RMP 5 Gecko spring. And this is the slide return spring, also from the Gecko. This blaster was built around these two springs, which is why there is no other springs, no other spring upgrades available. This is the standard setup that you get. It is built as a LARP blaster to be just around 100 FPS and under, which is this setup. And yes, barrel plunger, already talked about it. Got a piece of brass over here. We got this piece, which is optional. This is basically a cutout plexiglass thing, which will sit in here later on, so that when the magazine is inserted, you can see how many darts you got left. If you don't have this, if you don't have this, if you don't want this, you can just print a different, or you can just have a different one of these. The ones that I sent out, they all have this. If you print it for yourself, you can just have a different sort of plate. Talking, continuing about the hardware, this is all the O-rings and the padding. The plunger head padding is 2 millimeters not 3mm as it is in a gecko, it's 2mm. So whichever plunger padding you're going to get, 2mm. And then these are the assortments of screws and heat inserts. We have M3, M2 screws, a bunch of tiny M2 screws. As I said, it's not a lot of space inside this project. And then there is your catch spring, your trigger spring, and your mag release spring. And yes, it's that tiny, but it's all you need, I promise. And then there's one thing. Remember these? Ever taken apart a Strife? There's tons of these, and everyone always said keep your screws. And this is why, because this will go into the magazine. Works just perfect. Tools you need for assembly. You're going to need your soldering iron for the heat inserts. I'm firing this up now so it gets started. You're going to need a bunch of Allen keys, potentially a file, just, you know, if some tolerances are not quite right. Maybe a hobby knife. It's always good to have a blade, an X-Acto blade for stuff like this. We'll need some form of glue. In this case, I use Uhu Kraft, and we definitely need some O-ring lube as well as some silicone grease. Now that we've talked about everything, let's do the order that I'd recommend you do it. I'd say we start with the probably the hardest task, which is gluing this into this in the right position. And the reason I do this first is so that the glue then can cure while we're doing everything else, so that it's ready for when we assemble. So let's get this to the side to start. All these little pieces here. Well, if I start here, I could have given this a break. I'm sorry. Yes, no scripted videos. So this is your turnaround. It'll get some heat inserts here. The barrel itself is glued into here, as is the plunger later on. So these things will be, when in its final form, glued into here. You want to make sure that you glue this correctly, because otherwise either the blaster won't work or it ain't sealed properly. So the way this works is the design kind of, you know, if you remember if you have seen the gecko turnaround where the barrel just sort of sits in the front and then the pusher seals into the 3D printed part, we kind of went a different direction with this design where everything is just one barrel just to eliminate air leakage. But that also means that this has to be sealed properly into here. Now you can look at the hole down here, which has to line up with the hole in here, but as you can see here, I've made a little black mark. The barrel wants to stick out in the end 2mm, not just about, it is exactly 2mm. So you can measure this however you like and then sort of mark it yourself. You can also look down here and line up this hole with the hole in here, which is then also the 2mm. Okay, so that's where you want to be. To make this easier on myself, I'm going to use a headlight. I'll be right back. One of the most underrated tools when modding is a headlight. I swear to God, it makes life so much easier, because no matter how many lights I put around me, my head's always in the way when I'm trying to look at things. So this is great. All right, I don't know, can you see this now? You can sort of see this now. This is what I mean by aligning this, and then this should be good. All right, the way we do this, I'm going to use this. Basically, you put some glue in here, put some glue on there, let it dry a little bit until it's not fully dry, and then you put it in. What I'm going to do is I'm only going to put glue on this side of the barrel. So with the barrel being in like it should, I know that it kind of sticks out to about here. So just marking this on the barrel right there, so that I don't get the glue all the way in the front here. I'm going to put glue a little bit around here and in here. Then I push this through here further than I need to be. And then I'm going to put some glue around here, and then I'm going to pull it back. Okay. And then I'm going to use a cotton butt or cotton tip thing to just clean off any glue around here and around here. And then I'm going to set this aside. All right, let's do this. There they are. I was looking for you. Just make sure you have enough glue in here, but not too much. You don't want to accidentally glue the hole shut or anything like this, but you want to have the glue going all the way around so that it is actually nice and sealed. Right. You stop doing this. So same thing around here. Maybe a little bit more up there. Fair. All right. You can use a cotton bud to kind of sort of spread the glue around in here a little bit, but you know, depending on the curing times of your glue, be careful not to glue this into there. All right. Now, these little bubbles are forming, means that this is sort of drying. It's not sticking to my hand anymore. Give it a little bit more. You don't want to wait too long because you still need to be able to move this, right? So we're going to come up here. I'm going to get rid of the excess glue. Awesome. Use the next one to clean this up really nice. There we go. Now we're going to move this forward a little bit. Now we kind of have to be speedy. Right, already know this is a little bit too much over here. Doesn't matter. So going back, checking the alignment, this is where I want to be. And now I'm cleaning up this. Nice and easy. All right, now this looks a little bit messy, I know. But it'll make sure that this is absolutely clean. If you have any other glues, like I know Yoshi has a different industrial glue that he likes to use that cleans up nicer, that's all fine. See this little bit of glue that's left here? That's all easy. I can get rid of this later really easy just with my fingernail like so. But if I do this too early, I am gonna scratch the glue that seals the side here, which is why I'm not gonna do this now. So now you want to make sure that you got your 2mm out the back there. It's just a little over. There we go. And as I said, this is the trickiest part about building the Scarlett, okay? So you look at this. This is aligned. That's the 2mm. You can check the corners here. They look sealed to me. If they don't, right, you can wait a little bit and then apply another ring of glue just around here. Doesn't seem like it's moving anymore, so put it down where you can't, you know, tilt to the side and do something else. Now, what we're going to do, glue the pad to the plunger. You want to, because these are really, really smooth, I'll just roughen them up a little bit with the file like so, just a couple of scratches, okay? So if you put glue down, the glue has actually something to catch onto. In this case, there's already glue on the pad itself, which is great, so I don't have to worry about it. Just put it down here, like so. Centered, done. I like these pads, they're fantastic. There you go. So that's that, okay? Now the other thing we want to glue is this brass piece into the catch. Nope, not this part of the catch, this part of the catch. This is kind of similar to what the gecko catch does, because it just guides the plunger, so you know it's straight and always catching where it should be. So same thing, I'm going to use a little bit of this glue on the inside here. And once I'm done with this, I'm just going to put this down and I'm going to use a little bit of glue. Which corner? Let's say that one. It's fine. A little bit of glue on this side here. Just like this. And now I'm going to let this sit. Because it actually says let it sit for 10 minutes, then push together with force, and then you can't move it anymore. This is what I like to do with these two pieces, but obviously not with this one because we need to move it back and forth as we glue it in. All right, let's not forget about this. We have to glue this into there as well, but we're going to do our heat inserts first so that this can actually cure. Do not forget about this. Curing times on the glue are going to be up to the glue that you use. We've still got a little bit of time. So we need a heat insert in here. We're going to need 2 heat inserts in here. we are going to need heat inserts in here. And we're going to need heat inserts in here, and this is going to be a tricky one to do, but let's do this last then, shall we? All right, this is our pusher. Our pusher gets one M3 heat insert in the back here. There's a little bit of 3D printing wobbliness going on here. There we go. That should solve this. Easy. Same with any sort of heat inserts, you know, heat them up, let them slide in, try to use as little force as possible. There we go. Now with this, it's important that if you have buildup, that you either squish this down again or cut it off after, because that will sit in here and has to sort of go all the way in. Okay. Check this part if you have printed it yourself. There is always the chance of some, you know, layers not printing that well in the back here. And then you want to clear this out so that this can sit all the way into the back in here. There we go. All right. No need to put it together now. All right. Back to this one. Put it together. There we go. Be careful when pushing on brass. These are sharp. I always set it down somewhere and push it down. Make sure that there is no excess glue on the inside here, which would interfere with the catch mechanism. That's good and clean. Set it aside to let it cure. We can continue with these heat inserts. These are M2 heat inserts, meaning they do not need a lot of heat. They're going to be really quick. There we go. That's it. And the rail is, by the way, absolutely optional. So you do not have to have the rail. The cool thing about this blaster is the bottom shell is closed and function without it. And having this rail here is just an aesthetic option that you can choose. If you don't want it, you know, don't use it. If you want it, use it. Another 4 heat inserts go in the bottom of your magazine. They're also M2 heat inserts. Like this. Okay, nice and easy. Now you have one M2 heat insert left, and that goes in this hole here on the side of your bottom shell. This is a little bit of a tricky one, so be careful with this, because I have pushed this through many a times, and this is what holds the slide lock function thingy, right? And so if this is gone, you don't have that function anymore. So nice and easy. Until it's flush and no further, because it will come out on the inside. Sweet. So this is set. If you're confident that your barrel doesn't move while you do this, you can do this now. Otherwise, you can wait. Do it later. So you know me, I'm trying to be confident. The excess buildup of the print, you got to cut down later. When you want to cut down the leftovers, ideally you want to wait until this is cold again, because then you can cut it way easier. Right, has the barrel moved? No, the barrel has not moved. That's what I'm telling myself. It has moved a little bit. There we go. All right. All right, so the last 2 heat inserts actually go in the slide of the blaster, and they are the ones that are tricky because they have to be here, right there and there. All right, you can see this, it is there and there. And I try to do this with a standard tip of a soldering iron, and honestly, I always end up melting parts of the walls up here, which is not good. So the solution is a bent tip like this. If you don't have one, I didn't have one, I just used another one and just bent it, because this will then allow me to sort of come in on an angle like so and push down without having the top part touching the wall here. But it means that I have to let the soldering iron cool down now in order for me to be able to swap these, because they are hot. So yeah, that is a forced break at this point. And there is honestly not much that we can do while we wait for this, because we need those two inserts in there to continue. We could build the magazine. Let's build the magazine. The magazine is using the RMP magazine spring, a follower, and a base. And this weird little guy that is from a Nerf Strife, as I said in the intro, uses a Phillips head screwdriver. You want to get this screwed into the center here without having the spring turning when you do it. So this should be aligned like this when you're done, and not obviously like that. So I found it helpful to kind of tilt it the other way for my final turn, because that always sort of brings it in the center. See, that was a little bit too much. All right, like so. There we go. Okay, you want to have this roughly like this, okay? Another thing that you want to do that I have done to this a lot is when you print these, I'd recommend printing these standing up. You want to make sure that this is the right way and that it goes in and out easy without any problems of getting stuck. So that is moving as it should. So now put that in. Fold the spring up like this, and now this one here goes onto that like so, and the easiest way is to just hold the spring down like this. The round part shows forward to also where the detent is right here, and I just just put it on like here like this, and then just slide it over and you're done. Nice and easy. You take the 8mm M2 screws and a small Allen key screwdriver and put these down. If you want to be on the secure side, you could use some Loctite on these as well, but so far in all the testing these have never really opened. So now we have built a magazine. Done. All right, let's look at this again. That is good. Let's do the next step, which is gluing this onto here. And now that will depend on, the tolerances here will depend on printer settings, on your hardware, the hardware that you choose to use. If you use this and printed parts from me, there is tolerance here, which is on purpose to make sure that you get this right. But this also means you do need a lot of glue around here and around the bottom here to seal this off. You can also use some glue on the back here to make sure that this is not moving, okay? You want this to be laying flat against the turnaround. You don't want there to be a gap between the turnaround and this. So maybe down the road, we're going to change this, but because we were looking at other polycarb options that were just a little bit bigger than 0.5mm, this is why this is like that, all right? So far, everyone has worked, so just, use a lot of glue and you'll be good. Oops. Do not do this. Put it on the side. So I'm going to put a good amount of glue on the back line here, some up here. And then I'm going to make sure to cover the sides. Any excess glue we can wipe off after, so don't worry too much about it. Obviously, do not go bonkers crazy with your glue. All right, now, this is a little bit tricky. Let's rest it against here. Put a little glue on the bottom, let's say 3mm, 2mm, 3mm off your plunger tube. Like this. That should be fine. Now we take that and we put it together. Now places where the glue normally drips out are on the side here, which is what it does now. Don't worry too much, the plunger tube is not going to be seen. Take another one of these. All right. Now you want to look down. There we go. Doesn't work with the light so well. You want to look down into your plunger to sort of make sure that there is glue all around the outside of the plunger wall, so that it is sealing everything. You also want to make sure that this entire thing is laying flat on here and is not on an angle or anything. Okay. At the same time, you want to make sure that you don't push it too far that way. So that's why I'm always pushing onto the back here. All right, now this definitely has to cure. Do not try to continue doing anything without this being fully cured. So at this stage, I recommend a little pause, you know, get yourself a cup of tea, get yourself something to eat, to drink, and then come back to this once this is fully cured. All right, everybody, back we are. I got myself a cup of tea, which is over here. I'll let this cure a little bit, and I've also let cool down my soldering iron to swap the tips, which means that now we can do these two things. But before we do that, I noticed that I made a little mistake. As I'm building two at the same time, I put the wrong top onto here. So yeah, let me just quickly fix this. Right on, here we are. This is what it should look like, and it will make more sense later. All right, let's tackle this. So as I said, I've changed this for a bent tip. Okay, we now have to put these two in here, and this is the other challenging bit about this assembly. These two heat inserts, you want to make sure they are straight, because otherwise this is a catch. The catch won't, you know, sit there properly. You want to also make sure that there is no melted material that's kind of pushing up, because then again this doesn't sit flush into here. The catch later on has to be flush on this side and flush on this side. So yes, I guess it's really important that you do not screw this up. Honestly, this is what I hated the most about the prototypes before I had this bent heat insert thingy. And there we go, that's one. And sweet. So this is all set. So we got a little bit of material that kind of pushed up. Before I'm gonna work on this, I'll let this cool down a bit so the rest of it is actually cold. Those are the last inserts, so that's all fine. Let's look at a catch. This is the catch. There is two catch pieces, or depending on how many you print, they're actually three different sizes. I would start off with the longer one, which should work fine, but there have been cases that eventually the blaster, when you sort of, you know, prime backwards and then just let go, it'll misfire, and that's why we have a shorter catch as well, to make sure that it doesn't engage when it's not supposed to. So just hold these next to each other, figure out which one is the longer one. This goes in here with the brass facing this way. The angle wants to go this way, so the smaller end is facing forward, and that's because obviously the trigger is going to interact with it like this. Okay, your catch spring is the tiny longer one. So the longer, there's two long springs, and this looks really weak, but that's plenty enough for the catch. If you want to, you can lubricate the catch so that it's all nice and smooth. And also make sure that on both sides, so flip it over on this side, it runs in here nice and smooth. So there's a little bit of friction there. That's because of the print layer orientation on here. You could go and, you know, just give this a little bit of a sand so that it's all nice and easy. But in all honesty, I've never had troubles with this catch. Now installing it is a different ball game. The way we normally, well, the way that I think is best to do this is to have the spring where it needs to be, have this roughly where it needs to be, because like this, the spring is not in place. There we go. This is how it should look, and now you need to put this over the top. So you're going to slide it from here and you're done. Okay, and now you can see this does work just fine. And yeah, the catch itself, the catch housing itself, is not screwed together by itself like it is with the gecko. It's screwed together with 2 screws into there, into the slide. So right now, in order to keep it together, you want to get the 2 20mm screws with the cylinder head and get those put through those holes here. And again, really tight clearances. So if yours don't work quite well at the start, you might want to, you know, just drill them through with a 3mm drill bit. All right, so this holds itself in place now, so I can let go. That's all fair. Now we're going to put this here. Going to take care of this little stuff that kind of sort of melted itself up. Okay. You want to make sure that this is really flat. So you really want to get in there, make sure this is flat and there's no material that's not meant to be there sort of sticking out. All right. Same with this side. Make sure the corners are clean. Be careful not to cut yourself. That has to come out. Come on, there we go. And now you can test fit this. So this should sit in there all the way flush on both sides, and then all the way flush here, which is good, on both sides as well. So now we can put this in place. Again, since you're screwing into a heat insert on the other side, make sure to go nice and slow. If you feel any resistance, sort of back it off a little, go left and then go right again. But this one seems like it's working perfectly. There we go, it's pretty good. And on this side, nice. Oh wait, I spoke too soon. So this one I can take out now because, you know, that one is already holding it together. So as you can see here, there's a little bit of scratching on the print because of the head of the screw. That is normal. I've tried to take care of it as good as I can, but if I reduce this more, then there won't be a wall here, and that just seems not secure enough. All right, let's see how we can get this in there. Like this, maybe. There we go. Is that good now? Nope, it's still off by a little bit. There we go. Nice. Done. All right, make sure that these 2 screws are tight. Do not over tighten them, but after all, you're in heat inserts. But at the end of the day, this is like, these 2 screws are what hold all the pressure of the blaster. That's also why we don't recommend upgrading the spring, because it is literally just pulling on these two screws. Before we can go further, we need to prepare the pusher. So that's the small O-ring here. Just sits over the top like this. And now you just got to try if that seals perfectly. Otherwise, you might want to have some, what's it called? Teflon tape underneath that O-ring here. But this seals pretty good. Okay, in this case, a little bit of grease for even a better seal on that O-ring. It should be completely closed at this stage. Nice and easy, not too much friction. It's not falling out, so therefore, yeah, that's good. Easy. All right, so this is set. The plunger. The plunger has the bigger O-ring, which just sits on here. And now normally that should fit in here nice and easy. Yep. I take this O-ring lube to lubricate the inside of that carbon tube thoroughly. And you know, I know that the glue is now cured on the bottom, so I'm not gluing my plunger to the bottom, which technically shouldn't happen, but you know. All right, let's get this in here. There we go. Nice and easy. All right, you can sort of hear at the end, that's still a little bit dry down at the very end, which means that I'm just gonna do this a couple of times to spread the lube. All dirty jokes in the comments now. Yeah, and then get a second round of lube on around here. All right, this is super smooth. Awesome. Okay, it is at this stage where I normally do one of the last seal tests. Since there is that holes here, I take some Scotch tape to just, you know, for this testing, sort of block off these holes. You get to the end of it, fold, you know, just about 2 millimeters. Fold them over. It makes it easier to peel it off afterwards. So just to have these closed, put this in here, and now if you're blowing up the top, it should all be closed, right? Yeah, that's perfect. It's a very good seal once the plunger is in straight. So that should be just fine. Let's get to the tricky part. Let's get to assembling. The trigger wants to be down there. And it should just drop in. Try this before you assemble and lube everything, because depending on printer tolerances, this channel might not be as wide as it should be. If you're having trouble dropping the trigger in like this, you want to take a knife to these edges and cut them down a little bit. So the other thing is, I'd like to lube up the inside of that channel a little bit so that the trigger flow is easier. So you can do it like this, right? A little bit on the sides here as well. And that should be good. You can do the same thing with the trigger. Apply some lube to the bottom of the trigger, main trigger area, right there. A little bit to the side. And especially the side where the print surface is a little bit rougher. You haven't sanded that down, like so. Okay, the other large spring is the trigger spring. The trigger spring sits in the back here and in there. Now the way to do this, I think, is the best is by having the trigger in just like so. Okay, and then sit the spring either from the top or the bottom, sit the spring in there, and then push it down with the trigger, sort of. That's the idea. I'm going to use a little helper here. Right, so it's in on the one side, it's in on the trigger, you see, like so. And then I sort of push this back, make sure it's straight, and then it's in there. If you want to test it, put your finger on top of the trigger and then just sort of pull. Should be a bit of a stiffer trigger pull, but it should be all fine. Should be nice and smooth. There we go. Let's do the plunger assembly. The RMP5 spring goes around here, and the slight return goes around the top, like so. This slides into here and then should sit flush with these corners, these lines here and that one here. Now there's two M3 by 8mm screws left, and you take those to secure your plunger assembly. Right, you can have some Loctite on these if you want. Definitely helpful. Next up, before we so if you in the process of installing anything like lose the springs, it doesn't matter. You can actually, you don't have to get this out in order to access the springs, but I just wanted to show you where they need to go. Now what we need to install is the mag release. That is one tiny piece. It's very important that when you clean out for your own prints, that this area here is super clean, so this can sit in here like this, as you can see this, and slides easily back and forth. Let me show you this up close. This is all the movement that it does, so it has to be in here nice and close. I'm gonna lube up the entire thing around this piece. So I'm gonna have some lube here, and some on this side. Even some up the top here on this piece, okay, some down here, and then taking this piece, very important that you loop the inside corner here as well as this, and the bottom corners a bit, okay, right, oops, there we go. Now, the way to install this is basically you drop it through here, like this. And then you have this tiny spring. Grab yourself a pair of pliers, put the spring in the hole in the back of the turnaround, like you see here. And then just put this in like so. And then the pokey bit of the mag release should stick right into the spring. And that's it, okay? Now before you go any further, this will pop out, okay, if this plate is not installed. Because it's plastic on plastic, I do like to put some lubricant on the top here, okay, just to make sure that this is working. Now you want to, before you do anything, you want to push down here and see if that works, or if it gets stuck, okay? Maybe it needs to work itself in a little bit, but there is going to be a screw here and here, so if you push down here and this gets stuck and does not come back by itself, then it's definitely not working. You can use the magazine, try. If you pull this, it pops out easy, and if you put it in and it stays in, okay? So this works just about right. There could be a little bit more movement here, like just a little bit. Not 100% sure as to what this is, but most of the times it's caused by this. I'm going to show you on the printed part. Right, come on out. Don't lose that tiny little spring that just popped out here. Do not lose this. Like when you print this piece here, because it's printed in an orientation like this, doesn't focus. Like when it prints that wall here, this sometimes is not perfectly 90 degrees. And so this sticks up a little bit towards that direction, okay, that direction. And this is what's happening here, which is why I have to clean this off and give this a little bit of a sand So as you can see here, I want to get rid of this little corner right there. That is the one that's causing the problem. So I'm quickly going to do this off camera over here. As you can see, sanded this down a little bit. I am hoping that that was it. Still not 100%. And so while the barrel installation is the most complicated, this is the most tricky to get right, because at the end of the day, you want this to be like really, really easy. Sort of that it springs back all the time. The magazine is always secure. When you pop it, the magazine drops. It's always secure. So it's absolutely crucial that when you work on this piece, that you sand it down on each and every layer. So this side, as well as the top side here, which interferes with the top there just a little bit, as well as each and every other top and bottom surface. Right now it is functioning well. In order to keep this in place, you have to install this plate. But before you install this plate, if you happen to have this window, it's now time to drop this in here. So let me see if I can just sit this down without, oh hang on, I know how I can do this. Insert the magazine so mag release can't go anywhere. Now you take this, probably from the putting it back and forth, there is some finger stains on it. Now is the time to clean them off, get it nice and shiny looking. And now all you do is you drop this in here. It's just gonna sit right there. It's a little window, let you count your ammo you still have. And then this sits on top of here. You have a bunch of small M2 by 5mm screws, which are the ones that we use to put this down. In case something isn't 100% right, I'm only going to use 2 for now because you're screwing into plastic, okay? So be aware, do not over tighten these. Okay, making sure mag release works, like so. As you can see, the mag release works just fine. When you look at it, just by looking at it, it still looks like there could be a little bit more movement. However, if you test it by just dropping in the magazine, trying to pull it out, obviously, yes, you can break it, but if if it's not going out like this, the gravity drops nice and easy, but it's secure. Oh, do not lose the plunger. So there we go. That is this one done. While we're working on the grip scales, we could do the other one. Because, well, you can do that at any time really, because you're not taking it off. If you wonder why this one looks like this is in fact a blaster for a left-handed person. He wanted to have one of the grip scales left-handed, so this one right here is actually going to be used like this. How he's going to go to mag release, it's kind of going to be the trigger finger then. It's a little bit awkward, but we don't have an ambi mag release for this one just yet. It's a little bit trickier than we thought. So 4 of the M2 by 5mm screws are going to secure this. Again, do not over tighten these because they screw directly into plastic. Okay, just make sure they're in there. Done. As you can see here, I still have 2 left, which are these 2. I like to keep these out until I did the final testing, so if I know that shooting and firing and everything is fine, then I put those in. So just in case if I have to reopen this, because if you take this out, you have to take this out first. This is the thing about this design, because it is working together like this. If you want to take out your turnaround, you have to remove this, have to take out the mag release and watch this spring. Otherwise, you're gonna break this spring. We're now going to install the slide and everything. This ring here is a slight return spacer, which goes over the top here and then just sits onto here. If there is still glue, it will eventually glue itself to this, which is not a problem because we figured it is just good to have it. The reason why it's there is because there is a tolerance in these springs, even though there shouldn't be. And sometimes it's just depending on how your pusher sits into the barrel, it might need a little bit more force, and with this spacer it has enough force in order to close perfectly. There we go. Get your mainspring in here. Make sure your catch is still there and the catch is still working. And now we're going to install this because this is going to help us with the rest. This is the slide lock, which just sits here. And there's one M2 by 8mm screw left. And with this one, I highly recommend you use thread lock, because you're going to be using this a lot and you do not want to lose the spring. So, like so, it sits in here with the ring pointing outwards. This is that one. Yes. Make sure that this is not all the way tight. This has to move in order to be used, okay? So that's why the thread lock comes in handy. It has to be a little bit loose so you can nice and easy flip this up and down. Okay, good. Now that is installed. To install the front, you have the blaster upright. I found this the easiest. You kind of come over the top here, okay? Make sure that you get the brass into the spring down there. And then you're gonna put this into here like that. Okay, make sure the spring, come on, still fits. And then you might get caught with the catch here. You have to push the catch down so it slides in. And right there. It now wants to jump out forward, which is all of the springs putting pressure on this end. So in order for this to not happen, right, do not let go here. You're going to prime it once and have this hold the slide. The slide lock is now doing the thing. I'm going to let this sit here. Be careful. If you put your finger in here and slap that down, that's going to hurt. But what we're going to do now is we get the pusher inside with this little piece, the pusher base. If you look at the pusher and the pusher base, there's only one way this could go, which is like that. Or if you want to look at it the other way, if you look at the pusher close up, you can see it has a little bit more material on this side. This is the one facing towards the magazine, okay? So it's going to go in there like this. Pusher has to go in first, sit in there. Now this sits in here like so. Again, make sure that everything is flush. Take your pliers, grab this, and put it in here. And now you have this M3 by 20mm screw. What I like to do is I like to just hold this, put the screw in the back here. You're going to screw into the insert that's in there. And there is the one. Nope, that's not the one. That's the one. And just make sure that this is tight. There we go. You can use Loctite on this, you don't have to. This will want to kind of sort of tilt itself. Do not allow it. And now, don't just let it slap forward just yet. Make sure that this all locks in as it should. There is a little bit of a hop up right there, which is the O-ring and the barrel, okay? If there is too much of that, it will stop here and then it won't close up. And that means this one is slightly on an angle, which can be a thing, okay? I'm just quickly going to show you how to fix this. Also how to take this apart, by the way. Again, lock it in place like this. Open the back screw here, okay? Take out the pusher, take the pusher out completely. Then take out the screw and then take out the pusher base, okay? So the reason this can be angled is when this sits together that there is some debris up the top here, which actually there is, or there is, yeah, I forgot to clean this, or there's some debris in here, which then makes this a little bit on an angle. In this case, from putting the heat insert in, there's a little bit of molten material right there. No, not sure if you can see this right there, which is what I'm going to shave down now. So because that causes the pusher to sit slightly facing this way, slightly facing down, which means inside the blaster, when you hold the blaster, it's kind of slightly tilting up, causing a little bit of an issue there. If you file this down, make sure that it is flush and you're not creating any sort of different angle. Make sure to look in here. There is nothing in here. And then sort of put it back, and that looks way better now. And again, don't let it slap forward just yet. Make sure this is beautiful. It's right there. Okay, so this is almost done. Now, what's left to do? If you want to have the rail, there is the 2 by 20. That is. That really doesn't matter. It's kind of like the way you want it to. If you you know how if you want to have the screw heads on the one or the other side, let's put it on like this, and so done. Okay, that's the bottom rail. That is one left-handed Scarlett Mk1 blaster. If you have the R&J letters, if you've printed them and want to glue them in, kind of that's now where I do it. There's a ton of filing involved in getting these right, but it will add another accent to your blaster if you want to have it that way. Quick control of everything, if everything works before we're going to fire the blaster for the first time. These should line up just as they do right here, okay? This should sort of line up depending on how much elephant's foot you had in your print. Should be like just about 0.5 mm space in between this. This should work easily and also drop out easily. If it doesn't drop out easily, you can sand down a little bit on that corner, because it should be like this, okay? It'll wear itself in over time, so don't worry too much about it. All right, got 2 darts in the magazine just to show you how beautiful this blaster works. It was already primed, so that was easy. Let's shoot my hand. Ow. Okay. And then prime, let go, ready to shoot. Ow. Again, beautiful. Now we're gonna quickly put it over chronograph to see if we're hitting the target specs. All right, here we go. This is the Scarlett that we just built with brand new Adventure Force short darts. Target is 100 FPS. 103. 106. 105. 104. 103. 97. 100. The last dart. 100. So that is an average of 102. All right, as you have just seen, the FPS is spot on where it needs to be. So everything is working fine. One more thing that I wanted to tell you before I lock it up completely. If you want to, you can loop the inside of that channel. So this is running smoother, but this will result in, you know, a little bit of loop on the outside. If you want to, you can lubricate the inside of this channel. Okay, so this is a little bit smoother over the top here, but it will result on lubrication on this side where it's visible. Okay, at the end of the day, depends on what you want. I remember the first time I opened a blaster that Yoshi built, it was completely lubed up on the inside. It was absolutely butter smooth. And so if that's what you're aiming for, that's definitely what you can do. So you would want to, while you're assembling it, put some lubrication on the inside here, around here. You can see that there's sort of 3D print rubbing on 3D print. And that happens, that's the thing. You don't have to, it's just something I wanted to point out. All right, let's put in these 2 last screws and call it a day. Or, well, actually get on to the next one. So that's it. This is the Scarlett Mk1 built. Complete, in this case, as a left-handed variant. You know, makes it nice and easy. The right-handed one obviously then has this gap over here. I hope this build guide was helpful for you. I hope you have an easy time now putting this together. I hope you know what to look for. As I said at the start of the video, if you have anything, if you run into any problem or have anything that you couldn't figure out with the video, just leave a comment underneath the video and I get to it. I get to answer your questions as soon as possible. This is the Scarlett Mk1 designed by Yoshi and myself. And so this is available through my shop. There's a limited pre-sale of 20 blasters that will have the number on the side. Once that is done, the files will become available and there will be files there, the hardware kits for sale. I'll sell these as a DIY kit. And if you want me to print them for you, We can also have the heat inserts set already, so you literally just put it together along with this video. And yep, that's it. So let me know in the comments what you think. I hope you like the blaster. And just one thing, I know this is very real steel looking like, especially if you print it in darker colors. However, that is the aim of the blaster. It was meant as a LARP blaster for German LARP, okay? So I'd like you to not print this in black and run around, because you will get in trouble, okay? If you do that, you do it at your own risk. We take no responsibility whatsoever. We built this for responsible LARP users. And if you want to use this in Nerf, make sure it's bright colors, orange tip, orange trigger and everything. All right, this video took a lot longer than I thought it would, but it was thorough. I hope I covered everything. And until I see you next time, happy modding, happy nerfing, happy Scarlett building. Love and sunshine, my friends.